Thank you once again for joining us. This is the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton of Axum Planning and Wealth. I'm Spike Spangle. Tim, the retirement puzzle.
The retirement puzzle.
We're going to spill all the pieces on the desk and try to put it together this week.
How big a puzzle is this one? Because
Too big.
Because I don't like those ones that are like thousands of pieces and they're really small.
Yeah.
I feel like that gets a little complex.
I just got one. I really loved the picture. I don't think I'm going to finish it. It was literally just the moon. So it was just different. Oh, it was a beautiful picture, but it's just different shades of gray.
It looks exactly the same.
It's all the same. Every crater looks the same. So what is your retirement puzzle? But here's the thing, in putting together the retirement puzzle, everybody's puzzle pieces are completely different. So my first question for you is, how do you put together a plan for putting our money to rest for 30 years? or is our money able to retire with us?
Well, and that's a great question. I mean, when you think about a puzzle, and you know, it's overwhelming when you first get it, and you open up the box and you try and like figure out, you know, how this is going to work, and you move all the colors and all the pieces around. It's not that much different in a retirement plan. You know, people understand, they have a picture in their mind of what they're looking for, of kind of how it's supposed to finish when we get all the pieces together. Our job is what pieces go where. And you know, the retirement blueprint is literally based on the idea of taking worries and concerns that people have in their head, putting solutions down on paper, eliminating those worries.
We were just talking on one of our radio shows. If you've heard us before, it's on WHIO, also on the weekends. But how retirement planning is different today because of the longevity factor. If we go back to even the 90s, today's retirement planning, which now is 35 years, and when I say that, boy, when I think of the grunge shirts and the long hair and the non-shaving I did back in the 90s.
Right.
Oh, boy, that was a bad look. But we're living longer. Yeah. There are even more people today in the state of Ohio that are over the age of 65 than just 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost 20% of the population of Ohio is actually over the age of 65. And this isn't a new phenomenon. If you look back at 1980, in 1980, the number of people over the age of 65, the percentage of that group that was over the age of 90 was 2%. 2%. Today, wow, it's 10. By the time I get there, fingers crossed, it's going to be like 20%. So this is not a phenomenon that you know, this isn't global warming where maybe we're right, maybe we're wrong. We're definitely right. People are living longer, and the great news is, Spike, we're living longer well. I had 2 clients last year that went to Europe over the age of 90. They did a riverboat cruise. I mean, that's what aging in America looks like today. It's not, you know, rocking chairs and, you know, waiting for death. Yeah. It's literally living life and enjoying it and having these rich retirement experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what we have to factor in, though, and I'm so glad, couple, age of 90, taking still journeys of a lifetime, but I bet you that journey of a lifetime was a lot more expensive than it would have been had they taken it 20 years ago.
Right.
If we are living longer, we have to be realistic about what inflation means. Can we have an inflation conversation? It's more beyond priceflation today and the egg union that we always like to joke about and so forth, and how things cost us more. But inflation itself, it doubles our costs every what?
20 years.
Yeah.
So when you look at the cost of living, and this is where the retirement puzzle gets really confusing. You know, it's not about knowing what your number needs to be when you retire. In other words, how much do I have to have saved and how much income do I have to be able to generate from those investments? It's also understanding that there has to be a growth component to the actual portfolio because of inflation. I just talked about, you know, we transitioned, you know, from a 20-year, maybe 25-year retirement to 30, 35 years. The problem there is when we go from 20 years to 30 years, that's another 50% increase in cost of living. And if you look at the financial planning books and what the industry says, as you get older, you're supposed to get more conservative. That doesn't make sense. How could we possibly keep up with 1.5 doubles in our cost of living and be super conservative with all of our investment?
I'm sorry, though. I've got to swing it back in the other direction because I can understand why people do want to get more conservative. We also have to consider market volatility.
Yeah.
In a long retirement, and especially the market volatility we've seen this year alone. Are you saying that we want today's retiree exposed to all of today's market volatility?
Not all of it, but some of it. And that's where we have to get into what we talk about on the show every week, giving jobs to the money. When we have this nest egg and we just kind of put it on the table and we look at it and we're like, all right, here's what I have. That's not a plan. That's just assets. We've got to get in and define what are those assets supposed to do for us? What do we need to get from those assets? Part of it may be income. Well, no, that can't have volatility associated with it. But what's left over is growth. And if I don't need to take income from it and I'm 65 years old, that's 30-year money. How would you have invested that at 35? It's the same money. So volatility is not an age-based, it's a job-based piece of the puzzle.
I don't want to go towards percentages, but so we've got some of it for our income money. Mm-hmm. We've got our Social Security, which will hopefully be, that's a whole nother program. We'll talk about Social Security and how that's doing right now. And some of our news or noise. We like to do a lot of those shows around this time of year as well. But giving a job to the money is that the market money, we need that for growth down the road. Mm-hmm. Can we talk a little bit more about that actual protection money, though? What is the stuff that is giving us the daily income? That's not exposed to the market volatility.
No, and by definition, it can't be. I know that I have to have it. I know that I can't have it go down. Therefore, I can't have volatility associated with that income money. I've got enough issues to deal with because I have to deal with taxes still have to deal with inflation. So I don't want any other volatility that could potentially get into my nest egg. So as I'm looking at my plan, I have to define what income I'm going to need from my investments. Then we're going to have to segregate that part of the portfolio so that we have the income that we need, not just for our life, but for our spouse's life too, if you're married. And then what's left over, that's where we can start getting into the risk conversation. And everybody's risk is different. And so I'm not suggesting that, just because you have 30 years on this money that we just kind of swing for the fences, but maybe we should swing for the fences with a little bit of it. That's really where the plan comes to fruition, is we're putting those puzzle pieces together and we start to see what fits and we start to see it. I've seen the worry and concern on people's faces in our office just disappear. We had a client in a couple weeks ago, and she's sitting there, and we're going over the plan, and she was super concerned. She was a widower, and she was really worried if she was going to be okay, because she honestly didn't know. They had done a good job of saving, but she lost her spouse's Social Security and part of his pension, and she was genuinely worried. And we go through the plan, and then she's able to see it on that giant screen we have in our conference room, and literally started crying, because she was so overwhelmed and felt just kind of a release of worry. And it was amazing to see.
I was going to say tears of relief.
Yes, yes.
Not of sadness.
Not of sadness. Those aren't fun conversations.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody kind of knows where they want to end up. Why don't you take the opportunity to sit down with us? Let us take a look at your situation, understand your family, what's supposed to happen when you're gone, what's supposed to happen while you're living. What does that retirement of your dreams look like? Then hand us over your puzzle pieces. Let us put them together for you.
Folks, you can call that phone number right now down on the bottom of the screen and get started on your own retirement blueprint. That is the process that Tim himself has invented. Are you worried about today's market volatility? Do you have enough in savings? How do you mitigate your taxes, Social Security planning, all of that and more? That's what the Retirement Blueprint is about. It is free for our viewers. You can call that phone number and get started. Do that right now, and while you're dialing that phone number, continue to watch this message about the process of what Tim does right here at Axum Planning and Wealth. We'll be right back.
Do you feel like you're stuck when it comes to retirement, with more questions than answers? For example, do you understand the impact inflation will have on your savings? Are you prepared if something happens to your spouse? How will you replace their income? Is your estate plan up to date? Would a nursing home stay potentially wipe out your retirement savings? If any of these questions are on your mind, we would like to invite you to sit down with one of our financial retirement advisors and discover our trademark process, the Retirement Blueprint. Any successful retirement starts with a plan. Let us plan your tomorrow today. As Americans, we strive for better. From a better house, to a better career, to a better life for our kids. Better has become the American way. But when it comes to your retirement, what does better mean to you? More income, flexible lifestyle, better solutions? A better retirement begins with a better plan. To claim your retirement readiness review, call the number you see here. You only retire once. This is your opportunity to plan for better.
Welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton of Axum Planning and Wealth. We're trying to help you put together your puzzle pieces for retirement. And some of you have thousands and thousands of different puzzle pieces, and they're all different colors, all different shapes. It's difficult to put together. One of the hardest parts, I think, of the puzzle is the healthcare pieces, putting those together.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Medicare doesn't just cover it all, does it?
No, it doesn't. And you know, a lot of people are worried when they think about healthcare as a concern. They're usually referring to things like, you know, I'm going to have this really expensive surgery, or you know, maybe I'm going to be put on a medication that has a really high expense each month. That's not the worry. You know, once you get Medicare, and if you have a supplement, that's not what's going to get you. What's going to get you, Spike, is that potential nursing home stay. And listen, there's so many studies out there, and I've seen anywhere from 50% chance you go to a nursing home to 70% chance, depending on whose study. Here's what I know. It's at least a coin flip. There's at least a coin flip that a married couple, that one of you will spend time in a nursing home. And so to not plan for that, I think could, or at least not consider it, would be a mistake. The problem is, how do I plan for it? Because it can cost anywhere from $3,500 a month. Maybe I live in an over 55 community, which, you know, is basically a glorified, country club.
Yeah.
All the way up to $15,000 a month for memory care. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're talking about $150,000 difference between the minimum care and the maximum care, and we haven't even talked about home health care.
Right. And you know what? We're going to try to keep a smile on our face about this. Nobody really likes thinking about these extra costs, but tell you what, there are solutions.
There is.
There are things that we can insure. There are tools that can be kind of used as a hybrid, either for income or for insurance, for making sure we can keep a lot more of our nest egg. The paying dollar for dollar for long-term care out of our own pocket is a way to really, really drain down our life savings.
It really is, but you know, you don't know what you don't know. And so for those out there that, you know, this has been an issue in your family history, where you've lived through, you know, maybe a parent or a grandparent going to a nursing home, and there's usually one of two outcomes. Either it went really, really well, they were prepared, maybe they had one of those old long-term care insurance policies, and it was wonderful. I mean, as wonderful as it can be.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is they hadn't done anything, and they ended up losing all that they'd worked their entire lives for. Either way, it should kind of light a fire under you to at least address this. And I'm not suggesting you have to figure it out, but you have to decide if you're going to figure it out or not.
Right. You know, we insure our automobiles, we insure our homes. Let's insure the nest egg.
Yes.
You know what, folks, and what we're really talking about, I think the more that we do the radio, the more that we do the TV show, it's that we all have worked so really hard.
Yeah.
Your viewers, your listeners, yourself, the people in your office. Let's protect these things. You know, we get the health care insurance because we know that things happen to our bodies, especially as we get older. Let's insure our own life savings just by having these conversations. Now, as part of the retirement blueprint, where do the healthcare conversations come in? Is this part of the mapping that you do?
Well, it has to be. And, you know, I think that's what's so frustrating about, you know, the industry that I've spent almost 30 years in. It doesn't get talked about. What's interesting is, and I've been studying generational psychology for over 30 years, we have all these different benchmarks in life. You know, can't wait to turn, 16 and drive a car, and at 18 we can vote. I don't know that that's as exciting as it sounds. We turn 21.
Well, 18 is, I think, that you could finally do the armed services if you want to, right? So you got 18, then you got 21.
21, 25, I get to rent a car, which is great because apparently that's when your frontal cortex is developed.
50, you finally get your AARP in the mail.
That's right. And 65, I can get my Social Security. And then kind of the last benchmark people look at is for required minimum distributions from their IRAs, those RMDs that click in 73, 74. And then it's hard to stop. We don't typically look past that into that next 20 to 30 years, and it's a mistake. Because again, if I know what the problem is and I have 20 or 30 years to fix it, I can fix just about any problem. And if I can't, I can use estate planning as it pertains to a nursing home stay. I can use estate planning. I can leverage cash that I have with potential insurance products and other things. These problems can be solved. But you have to get serious about it. You have to take a look at your situation, whether it's us or somebody like us, where we can sit down and figure out a path that will include all of these things: taxes, inflation, nursing home, when to claim Social Security. It all has to be mapped out.
And let's bring this all the way over to, it's almost been kind of a raw deal for the American public for 4.5 decades that we have to figure out how to save on our own inside our own 401ks, right?
Yeah.
And then nobody tells you, how do you decumulate? What do you do with it? What order do you take it from? Which accounts do you take from first?
When do I change my investments?
When do I change my investments? When do I roll it over?
How
How do you help people? Well, probably with a big monitor again in the office, but do you take people through the decumulation process of their assets and how long it'll last?
Absolutely, and we do this through a number of different software strategies where we can basically start to stress test our retirement, and this is really helpful because you can actually see, like we had clients in a couple days ago, and we had kind of looked at 65 as a retirement timeline. And he said, well, what if it was 63? Well, I could just toggle over to 63 from 65, hit refresh, and again, it'll show me the probability. It'll show me what we need to do. We can figure out and have these conversations, but it starts with you coming into the office. I mean, I can't help you over TV. I can give you general ideas, but we can't give advice.
There's a couple of different ways you as the viewer. You can call the phone number right now down on the bottom of the screen and set up your own appointment. You will get your own absolutely free retirement blueprint. Now, as Tim always says, this isn't just a handout. This isn't a book or a booklet or a folder that you get. The retirement blueprint is tailored to you, your specific situation, your decumulation strategies, your tax review, how and when to take your Social Security, the details for you. That's what your retirement blueprint is. And for our television viewers, there is no cost to that. Call that phone number right now down on the bottom of the screen, or open up your smartphone to the camera function, point it at this QR code and click on it. It'll take you over to a landing page. You can schedule your own appointment right there. But I know what a lot of you might be thinking. I've got a guy who takes care of this, or a gal. I've got somebody who's at a financial firm. I've got my tax planning guy. They'll take care of some of this. I've got an estate planning guy. But do you have it all underneath one roof? Somebody who you can talk to about all of these different things? What would a second opinion mean to you about what your strategy is? Don't go anywhere. Watch this following message that Tim has about you getting a second opinion.
Partner and co-founder of Axum Planning and Wealth. Let's cut to the chase. The markets, the economy, it's a mess. People are scared, feeling lost and unsure about their financial future. But here's the deal. You don't have to be. You're probably worried if your portfolio is really working for you. That's where we come in. At Axum, our team offers a complimentary retirement review to ensure that you are on track, a fresh set of eyes to give you that crucial second opinion. You need a fiduciary, someone who has your best interests at heart, not theirs. That's what we provide. A fiduciary perspective that you can trust. If you're concerned about your portfolio, don't wait. Give us a call. Take control. Get that second opinion. Let us plan your tomorrow today. Do you think your retirement savings is all yours? Think again. Your 401k, IRA, and pension come with a tax bill from Uncle Sam, and it could be bigger than what you expect. Want to find out how much you're going to owe? Our quick and easy tax calculator can show you right now. Just scan the QR code or visit us at blueprinttaxbill.com to see your potential tax bill and how to plan around it.
Welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton of Axum Planning and Wealth. I am Spike Spangle. We do the radio show together. We do a full hour every single week there as well. Always trying to help people out. Today it's trying to put together the pieces of your own retirement puzzle. One of the pieces, it was actually just played in the last message that we put together. Maybe we can bring that up again. The blueprinttaxbill.com. Why taxes are such a big part of the strategy today. If your financial representative isn't asking to see your tax returns every year, I don't even think you're getting half of the picture and the proper advice that you need to. What is the Blueprint Tax Bill, the free tool here?
Well, it's a really useful tool. Basically, we wanted to give people an awareness of taxes because we get into this way of thinking of, I've got $1 million in my IRA, and we get that statement, and it feels really good, and it's got 2 commas in it, and it just feels warm and fuzzy, right? But that's not really our money, right? The IRS has their hands in our pockets with part of those dollars, so $1 million IRA is probably closer to $700,000 of actual your money. If you want to know what your actual tax bill is on 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, TSP, those pre-tax savings plans, we made this super easy to use. You go to blueprinttaxbill.com, you can scan the QR code, you put in a little bit of information, and it will actually generate a free report that will show you what your tax liability potentially could be, and more importantly, with tax strategy, what you could reduce it to.
And we've said this on the radio, so when you do that and you go to blueprinttaxbill.com, please either be sitting down, do not be operating heavy machinery, do not be driving a vehicle.
Don't be standing on a ladder.
Because it's going to show you how much you owe in taxes on your tax-deferred accounts in its entirety.
Right.
Now, you don't have to do anything like a Roth conversion. You don't have to do all of that at once. But here's the thing. If you got $500,000, several $100,000, $1 million or more, it's going to show you how much you're going to have to pay in taxes. And that's no matter what, you're going to have to pay that amount. Now, do most people out there think that taxes are going to remain the same or go down? Probably not. I think most people believe that taxes eventually will go up. So you're going to have to pay that amount or more.
Well, and it's not just what you have to pay, Spike, because in a lot of cases, we're going to pass this money on to the next generation, and we're going to saddle them with a potential tax bomb if we don't take taxes into our own hands. And unfortunately, with your CPA, your instructions to them is to pay the least amount of taxes every year. They're not going to come up with this strategy because that would violate you having to pay more taxes potentially to do something like a Roth conversion. So what we're really trying to drill down to is everything we've talked about on the show today has been looking at the lens through a 30-year retirement. If we have 30 years, we can fix so many potential problems. Taxes, inflation, all of it, but it starts with you sitting down with us, putting a plan together so that we can really dive into what those puzzle pieces that you have in your box, how they need to be put together.
That is what we kicked off the program with, is that how do we have our money work for us for over 30 years. We're trying to figure out how can we be retired. It's not a 5 or 10 year retirement probably like our
Well, Spike,
grandparents.
I'm going to steal your quote. You want to retire, but your money doesn't get to.
Your money's got to keep working for you, right? We got to keep that money working for you. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be 100% in the markets. It doesn't have to be 100% in an insurance tool that people have emotions and feelings about, but a mixture. And that's part of what the entire team is. So some of the things that you'll answer with the retirement blueprint, the spending plan, that's something that you will answer?
Yeah, the spending plan is important. And again, I'm not saying the word budget. Spike and I do not like the word budget.
I hate it.
We are anti-budget people. But a spending plan, that's something I can get behind, right? I want to figure out not what I can survive on or get by on, but what can I thrive on in retirement. That's your number. Then we have to sit down and figure out what is the best way to get it, which accounts, how do we approach the tax scenario, and put something in place that's going to last. We don't want you to be in retirement and telling your wife, you know what, we can't go out to eat tonight. We've already eaten out twice this week. We can't afford it. That's not the purpose of what you've worked all your life for. That is not the retirement that we want to see. And that's why when we put your puzzle pieces together, we want to put them together in a way that allows for you to do what you want to do in retirement.
The spending plan, what are you allowed to spend? Nobody likes to sit on a budget. It feels like a bad diet, and then eventually we blow through it because things happen. But that's another part of the retirement blueprint is you'll actually think about the things that are some of those blind spots. A roof repair, you've got to replace a car, one of the neighbors, or you go out and it gets bumped into or something like that. Look, placing things like that today are very, very expensive. So that also means that part of the retirement blueprint is coming up with a health care plan as well, right? That's part of the blueprint?
We've got to look at Medicare. We have to look at long-term care planning, Social Security claiming strategy. It's all layered in there. Estate plan. It all works together. We can't give advice on one without figuring out the others.
All right. Tim Lofton, thank you so very much. Trying to figure out 30 years, not only of retirement spending, but retirement healthcare costs, protection costs, your Social Security, all of that can obviously be very, very complex. So one of the things that you can get started with right now is your own retirement blueprint, your complete process for you to get your income, your spending, Social Security, estate planning, healthcare, all underneath one roof. Putting together all of these gears of the retirement watch so they're all working together. That's what the team at Axum Planning and Wealth does. You can get started with Tim Lofton right here. Call that phone number down on the bottom of the screen or scan that QR code. You can schedule your own appointment. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.